Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Career Pulse Podcast, your vital sign for career and business from everyday go-getters like you. I'm your host, Hayward Crawford, and welcome to our next episode with the one and only Ramona Lucius Burns. Ramona Lucius Burns is the founder of Hands-On Folktales. She originally received a BFA at Wayne State University, and she also holds a certificate from the Moscow Art Theater. And she is currently a very big up-and-coming storyteller, and runs a very massive program that's been developing in the Michigan area that she does for storytelling, education, literacy, as well as reading literacy as well. And I wanted to go over with you just briefly just some things that she talks about in the interview. So if you're really someone who's kind of like, what's all this storytelling, public speaking stuff? Is it really important? Is it something really I can really get a lot out of? Or I don't know, why do I need to do that? Or why should I get in my comfort zone and learn how to public speak or tell a story? Well, really, Ramona breaks a lot of that stuff down just on the essence of why you should become a storyteller in some aspects, whether in corporate America or if you're, working self-employed. She talks about, whether you're getting a grant or, making a pitch. People want to know what story you're telling. Pretty much she talks about how to really command yourself to walk into a room full of enemies and leave out with a room full of allies. You never want to hear the words good job or become complacent in that. You're supposed to really be in a place where you're uncertain when it comes to, finding your goal or your path. You're never going to have it all figured out, but you do have to keep tweaking and course correcting. Sometimes you can do your best and it, may not matter. We all have circumstances in life where things come up where it's out of your control. Business is not your friend. That's a really good point. Basically saying that, hey, it's a hard knock life, and nothing's handed to us. And sometimes we get knocked down, we got to get back up with a lot of different adversity that we face. Another great point she mentioned is success is a ladder you never stop climbing. And finally, life will leave unlocked doors for you, but you have to be the one to go through. You just can't keep waiting for your window to open. So once again, guys, looking forward. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast with the one and only Ramona Lucius Burns. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Pulse Podcast. I'm sitting next to our next guest, Ramona Lucius Burns. And Ramona is actually the creator of Hands-On Folktales, which we're going to get into today and talk about her career involved with that. Now, Ramona graduated with a BFA from Wayne State University and currently holds a certificate from the Moscow Art Theater. Ramona has recently appeared as Rachel Jones in Black and Brown Theater Company's Rachel Jones Makes a Romantic Comedy, and she could be seen next performing an interactive adapted Benin folktale at Teatro Chico. Did I say that correct? Teatro Chico on January 28th at Southwest Detroit. Also, Ramona is a community development coordinator for VSA Michigan, the director of operations for Activation Point, and acting as artistic director for Hands-On Folktales. Now, Hands-On Folktales is an inclusive arts education service that creates literacy programs and workshops for all ages and abilities. Hands-On Folktales can be followed on Facebook as well as Twitter. Now, a little bit about Ramona's background as a teaching artist. Her mission at Hands-On Folktales is to grow literacy through the appreciation of the arts. She helps create storytellers and folktales. Her programs are learner-centered and build or tell stories with our participants using different forms of art. In the fall of 2016, Hands-On Folktales taught an international residency with the Paths to Priest project, connecting students in Michigan and Canada. They examined the War of 1812 in a Washtenaw County middle school using storytelling and performing art. They also answered questions about conflict resolution then and now. Now, Ramona's background as a storyteller started in 2007 when she started working as a teaching artist in classrooms through Wayne and Oakland County. In 2009, she was touring with the Michigan Shakespeare Festival, teaching residencies, working as a puppeteer for Oakland County Parks and Recreation. The county then asked Ramona to create a storytelling program. She researched obscure world folk tales and created an interactive program that empowered the audience to tell the story with her. Within the first year, they were the best-selling program they offered. After she left Oakland County in 2011, she had so many requests for the interactive storytelling program that she went ahead and founded Hands-On Folktales, which has grown since then. They now offer residencies in schools all year round. You may have already seen a hands-on performance or workshop at a local venue, including the Detroit Institute of Arts, Somerset Mall, or the Charles Wright African American History Museum.
That's it.
Correct. Hands-On Folktales also offers professional development classes for educators seeking storytelling skills that they can adapt to support their classroom. As far as some of Ramona's recent highlights, she's part of obviously an inclusive arts company. She also recently accepted a board seat with the Black and Brown Theater Company. And now she's currently serves as Director of Operations for Activation Point. Now, Activation Point is an education time bank that invites educators and professionals and teaching artists to donate their time in the form of workshops, presentations, and classes to support classrooms affected by the Flint water crisis. You can learn more about Activation Point at their website, and they're also on social media, including Facebook and Twitter. Welcome to the program, Ramona. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Doing okay. I know we had a little rough parking lot fiasco getting here.
Yeah.
You know, and we're actually broadcasting currently at the Troy Public Library, and they can be pretty packed on a Sunday.
But what a great thing to see. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see a place where you can't get parking at the library on a Sunday. That's a good
point to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and just dive right in. Now, as far as Ramona, what do you typically tell people when they ask you what you do?
Oh, that's a really good question, especially after gig economy, right? Okay. So as you just listed, I wear a lot of hats, but usually I share with people that I'm a community storyteller. I'm an artist, and that sort of feeds into everything else. I'm a firm believer that if you have several jobs, if you have several avenues to go in, it's important to be observant and know who you're talking to, because that will help you lead your elevator pitch with what you do. Okay. So, but I start with I'm a community storyteller.
That's a great point. Okay. Now tell us, Ramona, a little bit about your humble beginnings, on how you first officially or unofficially stumbled into storytelling.
Humble beginnings. Let's go way back.
Okay, let's go back.
So when I was a kid, you could go to storytelling events at the library, and I was always the kid that was perfectly quiet. And it didn't matter what age I was. I wanted to hear the end of the story. And it was so important to me how the story was told. So that was probably my early beginnings. Also, I was a constant book reader. All the time I was in the library. In fact, I used to go to a library that when they had their books, they were too old, they would burn them. And I would, I know, right? Really? But not everybody knows that happens. Yeah. And not every library, and I'm not going to name names.
People lose their minds, so you found that out today.
But some of the books that were really, the bindings were falling apart, and they didn't have the money to invest to, restore the book. They would burn them. So me and my mom would show up with our car, and we'd collect all the books to be burned. Yeah. And so when I was a kid, I had this huge library full of stories and folk tales from all over the world. And I found out as I got older that no one else knew these stories, that I spent all my nights reading. So that's a big deal. That came into play later on in my life. I didn't know how it would, grow hands-on, but it really did.
How about that? And it's just very fitting how, we're actually conducting this interview from one of your favorite libraries by chance, because one location I was going to interview at wasn't available, but how about
that? This was not the library that I got the books from.
Okay, but still the symbolic full circleness is there, for sure. Now, what were some of your experiences and lessons starting with the Michigan Shakespeare Festival, and also your work as a puppeteer for Oakland County Parks and Recreation?
That all happened around the same time in my life. So I started with Michigan Shakes, and I was there for 4 years as a nurse in a touring production of Romeo and Juliet. I was also Lady Montague. Then later on, I was Lady Macduff and Macbeth.
A lot of ladies.
Yeah, a lot of ladies. And so that was a really important experience for me. It taught me how to properly tour. So the first year we toured that show, We were, waking up at all hours. I mean, 4 a.m. mornings, like really early calls.
Yeah, kind of film set hours. I can relate.
So you really relate, and and that's a discipline to be able to do that and not have a consistent schedule, but be able to be adaptive. And also with that tour, sometimes we perform in beautiful houses. I mean, gorgeous, opulent, with all the tech and everything you could want. And sometimes we perform in cafetoriums. Which is like a cafetorium, which is like a mixture. You remember from back in the day.
Well, I know what a cafeteria is.
And it's with an auditorium in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Some cafeterias have stages.
I went to East Middle School. Shout out Farmington Public Schools.
All right.
You guys, did your thing. I went to East Middle School, and my first year there, they still had the old school cafeteria. But yeah, I think it was right around the late 90s, mid 2000s where they did, renovate, and ended up being the cafeteria in the auditorium. I just thought my school was weird, but apparently that was...
a lot of schools. Yeah. And I've toured so many, I lost count of how many Michigan schools I toured. And eventually the tour grew, so we were going into Indiana, we were going into Ohio. Those were very early calls.
I didn't know that.
But that was, that taught me how to tour, and it taught me a different discipline. I mean, I'd learned a lot of discipline in theater. That's what it's all about, right? But it's entirely different to be constantly on the road and always on the go.
Yeah.
So, and also at the time I was a puppeteer in my free time, right?
Right.
And I worked at the Puppet Art Theater, which is downtown Detroit. It is a gem of a place. If you haven't been, shout out to Puppet Art. You should definitely check it out.
Check it out.
Every Saturday they have a show. And the puppeteers there are amazing. They're experts in the field. And they taught me, they gave me quite an education. It was a month before I was allowed to touch a puppet.
Really?
Of training with them.
Wow.
A month before you're even allowed to pick it up. It's intense. And I was with them for...
Put the puppet down.
Step away.
Save it with puppet. You're not ready yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are both lots of intense training and great discipline that I learned there.
Okay, great. Now, for the skeptics and maybe introverts out there, how do you feel the power of storytelling skills can really profoundly impact, someone's not only personal but professional life?
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel? How powerful do you feel
storytelling? It's important. I mean, we've all heard storytelling as a buzzword lately, right? Whether you're getting a grant or you're making a pitch, everyone wants to talk about what story are you telling. But beyond that, I tell, especially my students, when I walk into a room full of skeptics and leave with a room full of allies, I explain to them that this is also boss class. This is how you learn to present. If you can organize your ideas into a story, people will listen and you will have the room. This is how you run a boardroom, right? You have to be a good storyteller to keep anyone's attention, to get to your point, to know your objective. So storytelling is in every avenue of your life, whether you realize it or not, if you want to be an effective communicator.
Yep, and that's something I'm continuing to work on as well. Now, tell us a little bit about Hands-On Folktales. They had a recent international residency that bridged teachings between the U.S. and Canada. Pretty exciting.
We're still doing that. That goes on until June.
Awesome.
And so I'm right now hands-on is with the Paths to Peace project. This is from Art Train.
Okay.
And we've been invited with some other groups to come together and focus on the War of 1812 with students from Washtenaw middle schools, and then we're going to create a piece of art with students from Canada also, all based on the War of 1812. And let me tell you why this is important, because most students honestly don't get a lot of history lessons on this war, right?
Right.
But this was the war that really sort of defined America's borders, and also it created the longest undefended border in the world, U.S. and Canada. So that talks a lot about peace, about conflict resolution. How do we do it? How do we keep this peace? So the students and us, the students and all of the artists, we are talking about how does that relate to you in your life? How do you keep an undefended border?
I like the symbolism there.
Exactly, and also with the current, it's really interesting too. I got to mention this. We started this class in November before the election.
Right.
And at that point, the students, when they were talking about how conflict resolution looks now versus then, they were really painting Donald Trump as, the villain. This is not how you communicate with other nations. So it was a really interesting classroom after the election results came in.
I bet it was. That's pretty, but that really turned a lot of heads.
Yeah. And also, it's a message to our kids. You know, when we talk about how you resolve conflict in your own life, if we voted for Donald Trump, we're sending that message.
Yeah, it reminds me back of my peer mediation days in middle school. Kind of like, looking back now. Now, Ramona, what does a day in the life? What does a day in your life look like from the time you wake up till you go to bed? Like, what's like a typical schedule for you, for people out there wondering, like, Ramona, she has all this going on. What's her daily routine like?
Oh, wow. Well, going back to wearing a lot of hats, I don't usually have 2 days that really look the same, which is fine because I learned to adapt in my Michigan Shakespeare days.
Right.
Let's see. If I'm working for Hands-On, if I'm doing a residency, that day I wake up and I get all my lesson planning material, planned material, any visual aids I have, because we are an inclusive arts agency.
Okay.
So we work with kids from all levels, and all abilities. We meet them where they're at. So when I go into a classroom, if I'm teaching something, I don't just lecture, because there are some students that doesn't work for. That's not how they learn. So I bring in visual aids, visual arts for them to physically do. They're in groups together. They're working on their own. It's a very dynamic classroom.
Okay.
So I hope that answers your question. Every day is different.
Right. Yeah. So it's never just one cookie cutter. This is A, B, and C. Or I know a lot of times from the old school speech structures is kind of like this is what we're going to talk about. Then tell them what you told them, and then you kind of just you don't have a typical regimen. It's every workshop's different.
Yes.
Every workshop's different.
It's true, because it's learner-centered, and that's where the focus is. So if I meet you and I came in thinking we're going to dance today, and you don't want to dance,
right?
Guess what? We're changing it.
Good. I want to dance. Okay. Awesome. All right. So now tell me, Ramona, about some of your mentors, whether they're living or past, maybe celebrity or personal ones in your life.
Personal in my life, I'm going to give a shout out to Bobby Lucas.
Okay.
Bobby Lucas is, she's an artist, she's a dancer, and she is a fantastic educator. I have learned so much under her guidance with my work with Living Arts. That's how I met Bobby.
Okay.
And Bobby can take a look at one of my lessons where everyone else tells me, oh, that's a great lesson, home run. And Bobby will have a constructive critique for me every time. And I believe that success is a ladder you keep climbing. That's some of the best advice I ever received. And it's true. I never want to hear good job. That's the worst thing you can tell me. And what Bobby gives me as a gift through her mentorship is she never tells me a good job. She always has something that helps me improve. And
always
get better.
pushes and challenges you to
always.
the next.
And I appreciate it. And her eye is good. So Bobby Lucas, big shout out.
All right. Sounds good. Now, do you ever find yourself, I'm sure we all go through this, maybe struggling to compare yourself to other people's success, and maybe who are at a different level, higher level? Do you ever come across that?
I think it's something I struggled with more when I was younger, and something that I've learned. When you're really working, and when you're really working towards your goals, and you have a clear objective, you don't have time to compare yourself to anyone else because your eye is on the goal. And that's what I learned in my time, and that I don't have to compare myself to everyone else. I'm already working on establishing myself. And that's really it.
Okay. Don't have the time.
Yeah, I don't.
Now, what would you say to some other younger millennials or younger who may be worried about, my life purpose, what's my direction? They still feel kind of lost. Is there any? Did you ever feel that way at one point?
That's perfectly normal. I think every human being on this earth has felt that way, and you're supposed to be in a space where you're uncertain. That's how we grow. If we're always in a comfort space, you're not growing. That's just what it is. And so if you have a space where you're thinking, I don't know if this is right, then you are building focus right now. You are figuring out your goal through that struggle. And that's an okay struggle to have.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're turning over the rocks. You just got to keep, turning them over.
That's right.
I like that. It's normal.
It is.
Now, what Ramona, would you say are some of your biggest setbacks or failures? Because a lot of times people may look at somebody on Facebook or Twitter and see this whole thing they got going on. And I've been guilty of this myself. Like, man, they got it together. They got it all going on. But a lot of times we don't see what's behind the Facebook profile or what's behind, maybe their following or success. What would you say are some of your setbacks or failures?
Oh, wow.
How'd you get through those?
How to get through those?
Yeah.
I had one of my first big production gigs. I was working for one of the big three that shall remain nameless.
Okay.
And it was huge. It was a national tour. And I was really excited to be on it. And they paired me with a person who had a history of not being able to work with people.
Okay.
And I was warned before I got there, but I assumed if I was solution-oriented and I did everything right and I was always on the ball, that I would be fine. And when I found out, this is a big life lesson, sometimes you can do your best and it doesn't matter. And I know that's kind of a tough pill to swallow, but yeah, that job, I did really well. And that's the sad part. And I was excused, all because of a really petty, unnecessarily dramatic situation that I had nothing to do with.
Drama.
That's really what it was. It was drama, and she needed a scapegoat to protect her mistake.
Man, I'm sorry
and so
about
she
that.
turned me in. And even though I had all this paperwork to prove that this was not my mistake, it didn't matter. And that was important for me to learn, though. I think that every young person and every older person probably already knows it. Sometimes when you walk into a room, it doesn't matter if you pitch, a perfect game, you're going to leave a loser, and that's okay. You have to experience failure. You have to know what that tastes like, because that keeps you driven towards success. So yeah, that was tough for me to go through that, because oh man, and also I love the work too, but it taught me. It taught me to keep going. It taught me how to take a lick and keep on going, right?
Got to build thick skin, and you got to just get back up.
That's what it is, because, business is not your friend.
It's not. It will chew you up, spit you out. The train is moving with or without you.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you got to get on board.
Okay. Now, so how impactful do you feel is the power of authenticity, and how do you incorporate that into your storytelling?
Wait, what was that again?
Authenticity. Like just being maybe transparent, authentic. Is that?
Oh, the power of authenticity.
Yeah, the power of authenticity.
I mean, if you're speaking from truth, it's authentic, right? I mean, and that's what it is. And nobody wants to hear, and I'll tell you, actually, let's talk about this a little bit, because this gets into something for me. Right. So hands-on, I like to focus on world folk tales that are obscure, things you haven't heard from Japan, from India, all over the world, things that we don't talk about. And I wonder if it is... If it is, because people often ask me, well, what about your African tales? Because I'm Black. I know we're talking through the podcast. I'm Black.
Okay. I'm Black too.
Yeah. But people always ask me about, like, well, what about your African tales? As if that is somehow more authentic than me telling a Japanese tale. And so that's something I really work with. I always say, if you speak from truth, you are speaking authentically.
Okay.
But when it comes to my storytelling, and also, though, I believe in hiring diverse, and I'm always seeking storytellers from all different backgrounds, to help me tell stories. But that's something I come up against sometimes. People will say to me, well, you're telling all these Japanese folktales, or you're telling all these, French folktales. Are you French?
I would ask them, and I would proceed to ask them, well, how many African stories have you told already?
Yeah.
I'm at like 10. Where are you at?
Exactly. So. But, I think that when it comes to story, this is the truth. So a story is destroyed, but a folk tale is something that has been upvoted through time, right? That's the definition of a folk tale. It has to be told through generations to generation.
Goes back thousands of years.
Right. So what they really are is instructions. And I think it's so important that we take the instructions that the world has left for us. Okay. This is everybody's ancestor who thought that this instruction was so important, we have to send it forward. We have to tell this story. So maybe speaking from that truth, that authenticity is just being a descendant on this earth. It's inheriting that knowledge, and that's the truth I'm speaking from. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. You went in deep there. Yeah. And I was like, man, she just went 2 or 3 levels deeper than, pre-rabbit hole almost. Okay. Now, could you possibly walk me through, along with the listeners listening right now, maybe like a brief exercise that could give us some sort of handy, practical methods to improve our storytelling? Maybe something you would do during a workshop, something brief.
Yeah, well, I mean, it always depends on your audience, right?
Right.
So I'm going to talk to the storytellers out there who are young entrepreneurs and business people, because it's so important to have an elevator pitch. And remember, everything's a story. Anything could be a story, including how you tell the story of self. So I would guide you to think about your objective. What are the 3 things you want this person to know about your story? And then organize and focus. And it shouldn't be more than a minute. But if you take time now and just think about, what are 3 core values I have, or 3 assets that I need this person to know about, then that will formulate that elevator pitch of, what do you do? or even tell me something about you, which was we get that in every interview, right? Tell me about you.
Yeah, tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you go in there thinking of these 3 things I need them to know and how you can anecdotally build to that, right? Like, I want you to know that I'm a team player. Oh, I used to be on the basketball team and we had this big championship game and this happened. Like, whatever you can succinctly.
Right.
That's how you build a story that someone will remember. They will remember you.
Okay. All right, 3 things, 3 cores. Okay. Now, quick lightning round, Ramona.
All right, I'm ready for lightning round.
All right. 1 or 2 most memorable books you read recently.
Oh, American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
American Gods.
It pulls in a lot of old folk tales from all around the world, old folklore, and makes it very, like, relevant. Yeah.
By Dale Gaiman?
Neil Gaiman.
Oh, Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
Okay.
American
Next,
Gods.
is there another one or just that?
One cowrie shell.
Okay.
And that's a Benin folk tale. I'm actually about to tell it at the end of this month. I have a whole story about why. Can I go into it? I don't know.
Sure. Yes,
okay.
go.
So my grandfather recently did one of those ancestry kits. And my grandfather is fantastic, but he doesn't really work with computers well. So he borrowed a family member's phone to take a picture of the screen to send it to me. So I only have the first page because that's
That's
what
so
he gets.
adorable.
It is really sweet. But on that first page, I was looking it over. And at first, I kind of took the information and went on about my day. But then I had to pull over on the side of the road when I realized what I'd read. So our history, where we're from, that map is something that was taken from my family for generations and generations. That's a part of being, a Black American whose family has lived through slavery. And when I realized, oh my goodness, I know where we're from. That is something that we've been waiting to inherit for how long? It was powerful, right? That was deep for me. I have a roadmap home now. And so I looked at the first page and I learned Benin and Togo and Mali and all these countries. And so I began to research and I pulled...
These countries in Africa?
Yeah, countries in Africa.
Oh, okay.
And I began to pull folk tales. Because again, like I talked about, those are instructions from our past. And now I know where to get my grandmother's instructions. My grandmother's grandmother's grandmother.
Wow.
But I can find them now, what they wanted me to know, to be the adult that I could be. So I got one cowrie shell. And let me tell you, it sounds, I've done this story a few times now. And it really does feel like a story that someone in my family would make. It's all about, being on that hustle. Using the resources you got to get to your goals, being, perseverant, steadfast. It's an amazing story. I hope you join me on the 28th to come and see it.
Yeah, what time is it on the 28th?
So I'm not the only person performing there, but it starts at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on the 28th of January. And it's going to be, it's Teatro Chico. You can go online for more information about how to find it and the map and all. But yeah, you should come and check it out.
Yeah, we'll make sure to kind of recap that info. I mean, even though this episode will be airing a little bit later, a couple months, it might not make it. I'm trying to catch it up with the schedule. But yeah, we can definitely talk more about that at the end as well. And I could pencil that in my schedule. Now, what top 1 or 2 inspirational films?
Temple Grandin. That's a fantastic inspirational film about Temple Grandin, about a woman who lives with autism and how she got her master's degree. Yes. Temple Grandin. And I really want to see. Now, this is one that I'm about to see. Is it called Personal Heroes?
Hidden Figures?
Hidden Figures!
Yeah, coming up with Taraji Pinson and Octavia Spencer.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. Yeah. So I'm going to put that on my list because I believe it's going to be.
Yeah, and that's a great story. Of course, it wasn't told to us in the schools.
No,
but
it wasn't.
I'm glad this story is finally coming to light.
Yes.
On what they did. I can't wait for that one, too. I still need to see Fences, too. I'm behind the ball. This is we're dating where this podcast is now. iPhone or Android? iPhone, why?
Siri. I can ask Siri anything, and she's so great for a classroom. If you have a class that is unfocused, all you have to say is, "Hey Siri, what's the weather like?" and everyone's listening.
Yeah, it was crazy. But they also got that new thing with Amazon Echo.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's intense too. I mean, if you need anything else outside the phone, but I still got it because it's like they're at your fingertips. Anything you need to know. Like, hey, the Lion. What did the Lions lose today? Lions lost by 6.
Nice.
Can't believe it. So, most unusual side hobby.
Crocheting.
Crocheting?
Yeah.
May I ask what that is?
Yeah, so it's like knitting, but it's a little bit different. You just use one hook, and I'm trying to make a blanket. I've been working on the same blanket for like 4 years.
Wow. You need to hit up Courtney Roberts. She can knit it.
She taught me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Courtney's great.
She can knit a mean scarf.
Yes, she can. Her and Crystal Crawford can really knit and crochet.
Okay.
And so they're my crocheting and knitting mentors. I'm nowhere near as good as them. Again, the same blanket. It's not a big blanket yet.
Crocheting. Is that how you spell it?
Here.
Crochain?
Almost. It's here.
Okay. It's hard in my handwriting.
Oh, no.
It's a little bit aggressive, so to speak. Oh, okay. Crocheting. Okay. All right. Now, so is there anything currently that still makes you feel out of your comfort zone? And is that a good thing?
That's a great thing. I seek to be out of my comfort zone. I'm about constant growth. So, yeah. I'm trying to think what specifically, because I just seek out of my comfort zone experiences. I can't think of anything specific, but I think it's important to seek those experiences constantly, because that's how you grow.
And I think we're obviously creatures of comfort. We kind of get caught in the groove of doing the same thing, and I was like this for a long time. And, I think that's the biggest thing is, like, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I know a big thing for me, too, as far as, helping to, I want to really take my film and financial business to the next level. A big part of that is improving my communication skills, my public speaking. One of the reasons why I put on this podcast. And a big part of that is, I'm getting more involved in Toastmasters. I'm, doing these podcast interviews. I also started doing birthday selfie videos. Nice. So instead of the generic, happy birthday Facebook wall post, I send people a selfie video where I'm talking for 10 seconds, happy birthday.
That's awesome.
Extremely out of my comfort zone. But it's just one of those things where I'm just really looking to build it little by little, baby step at a time. I want to get more on Facebook Live. Maybe we could do a little quick Facebook Live podcast wrap up, after the hashtag shoot, but little things like that, which I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm just kind of like, hey, just do it.
Every time I encounter you have such a great trajectory, I should say. Yeah. Yes, in all things you do, I can tell the time, and you're awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Like just working at, I got my mentors that still hold me accountable, but just got to keep being uncomfortable, So what would you say, Ramona, is the best piece of advice you've ever heard? Carol
Burnett on Inside the Actors Studio years ago, she said that success is a ladder you never stop climbing. And I think, I say that to myself at least once a day. When I feel like, oh man, I'm tired.
I don't want to go.
Exactly. Right now, one of my classrooms, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. to get there on time. Oh, right, and it's not a short day. I don't leave before 3:30, and then it's another hour and a half ride home. Right.
Yeah. I'm about to have one of those days tomorrow.
Yeah. So am I actually. But that said, again, success. People look at me and they tell me, oh, wow, you've made it, or you've done this, or whatever. I hear that, and I just think, I don't have time to stop and smell the roses. I'm busy growing them. So.
Yeah, you're growing your legacy.
It's weird to hear that. Yeah. The younger generations have told me that recently.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna wrap that up at the end too. Watch, I'm gonna bring it back. Watch.
Okay.
Let that sit in for a second. Now tell us just a little bit more about your current position at Community Development Coordinator at VSA Michigan.
Yeah, that's, I was really honored to accept that position. So VSA is the state organization on arts and disability. Okay. So they're present all over the state, and they run residencies. And their purpose is to empower people living with disabilities with creative empowerment. So we create an inclusive society where people can participate in, excel in, and enjoy the arts. So it is a joy to be able to help grow bridges for such a worthy organization. Yeah, they just celebrated their 30th anniversary.
Oh, 30 years.
30 years. It was really exciting in October. And now we're looking forward to a whole new chapter with 2017. More growth, more programs, and reaching everyone in the state.
Okay. Now, how would that compare to your, also hand in hand with your director of operations position at Activation Point?
Activation Point right now, we are focused on Flint. And so it's a little different because I know I'm going directly to Flint, whether I'm going to Marquette or I'm going to, Algonac. Yeah. So right now we have about 100 hours donated from education organizations. And so they are sending completely free inclusive arts programming to students affected by the Flint water crisis.
Okay.
And so that means we come into classrooms that may be struggling with English, and we will teach English using dance or visual arts, so arts inclusion. There's a lot of evidence to show that arts inclusive programming helps mitigate some of the problems you have from lead poisoning. Conflict resolution, memory. There's a lot going into it if you want to continue some of the data. But I've been going back and forth to Flint quite a bit. And we're always looking for more schools to offer the service to. So if you are a principal or an educator and you want to talk to us about how we can get in your school, please contact me. We would love to talk with you. We spent the past semester working with Shop for Theater Company and doing a lot of work with Boys Club, Girls Club in Greater Flint.
Okay.
And that has been so exciting.
The Boys and Girls Club? Or
well, it's called Boys Club, Girls Club.
Oh, okay.
Of Greater Flint.
Okay, that's different from the one I grew up.
Yeah. That was so exciting. I actually got to teach Little Miss Flint. That was amazing.
Little Miss Flint.
Yeah, she's so sweet. She was so cool.
Yeah, all right. Now, Ramona, do you ever once in a while have those off days or when something doesn't go right, in your career or program? Does it get easier to face that adversity time to time?
Yeah. I got to say, I'm lucky, and knock on wood, that my classes tend to run really smoothly and my students enjoy themselves, so it's fun. But every once in a while, something happens or something goes wrong. And it's important to be adaptable, always be in the moment, always be solution oriented, because what seems like a challenge can often just be an opportunity. The happy accident.
Right.
And keep going. Just keep that solution focused lifestyle, and you'll be fine.
Okay. Now, what is one thing you're always looking to improve upon or feel you could do better?
Oh, all the time. Everything. I mean, see, I'm that person, right?
Right.
So, if I'm A+ing it, I'm looking about how I can get an A++. So I guess right now, I know, I really want to bring in more technology for hands-on.
Okay.
I work in a lot of at-risk classrooms where the students don't get to handle computers or tech or learn how to tell their story digitally. Right?
Right.
And I'm about telling our story in all sorts of different ways. So that's something that I want to grow. I want Hands-On to be able to help people tell their story using animation, using how do we add social media? How do I get tech into the hands of these students? That's my next big challenge.
Okay. Next one on the road.
Yeah.
Now, how important is the management of time? And do you find it important that youth are taught this at an early age?
Oh, yeah. But it's hard for kids, though, right? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe it's important for kids to, learn discipline and learn that their time is important and how you spend it is important. So not to waste it. But when you're really young, if we're honest, I remember I'm not that focused, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
I keep forgetting that.
I mean, and this is the truth. So I think it's important for us to, as adults, to be a little easier on kids, to remember that they should not be forced to be young adults at too early an age. They need some time where they can just enjoy. Because, you and I both know...
Unless they're a child actor.
Oh, yeah, it's poor child actor. But,
that's a different story. You're on your own.
But, for us, we know that when you get to be an adult, you don't get that time anymore. Every minute is counted. It is budgeted. So I think for kids, yes, it's important to teach them discipline. But you can do that teaching them an instrument. Teach them how to play the flute, and they're going to learn something that will translate into their lives as adults. But let them be kids.
Okay. So, how do you feel as far as yourself, the importance of time management?
Yeah. It's something I'm getting better with every year because I wear so many different hats, and it's so important to me that all of the organizations that I serve get the time that they deserve. Right. So I've had to learn how to say no for my time management. Because it's so funny now that I'm working for all these organizations. Ramona Lucius Burns, the actor, is getting a lot of offers, and I've had to start saying no because time management. Yeah. So
you gotta. That's an important. That's an important thing to realize right there. The importance of saying no.
Yeah.
Because whenever you say yes to something, you're unconsciously saying no to something else.
That's so true.
And you can't please everybody. You got to demand respect and kind of just know, hey, this is my path. This is what I'm on, and you can't make it liking or getting everybody to like or please you through just saying yes. So I can relate to that. I had trouble saying, no all the time. Not no all the time.
Not all the time. No to everybody.
No to everybody. I'm sitting at home. But yeah, you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
All right. So what do you, this is kind of tying in similar to what we talked about, what do you do to maybe grow on a daily basis? Do you reading in the morning?
Oh, I always read.
Reflection,
When I'm
meditation?
hands-on, I'm always looking for the next folktale that I can adapt, because our folktales are all interactive. So it has to be a tale that has a lot of movement that the audience can join in on. So I'm always on that search. So I read folktales constantly. I read scripts constantly because I also perform.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what I probably do to improve. Because I'll tell you what, if you're going to be a writer, the first thing you have to do is read all the time. There truly are only so many stories in the world, and we retell them all the time. So you better know the formula, and you better have all these ideas. So when I'm in a classroom and my students tell me they want to build a story about a robot and a cat on a mountain in Appalachia, I have to know the formula well enough to help them tie it together. That actually, by the way, is a true story I'm working on right now with a Detroit public school.
And that was brought on by exercise, where those random elements were kind of brought in?
Well, it's not. I base it all off of Aristotle's The Six Elements of Theater. And for a while I was teaching my kids about Aristotle. I let that fall away. They're not that interested in Aristotle, the young ones. Yeah. But he did have, in the Poetics, he has six things you can use to build any story. It's supposed to be any drama, but it really works for comedy also. Okay. So you have to have the characters are an element, plot, theme, spectacle, music, and dialect. And using that and letting my kids vote, that's how we have this collaborative storytelling when they're building in a classroom. Okay. Then they're able to sort of figure out the structure and use their imagination to grow it, to connect the dots.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a lot of it's a lot going on, but very structured, but at the same time, you execute it very well, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah. And also they learn about, if you're collaborating, and it's so true, if you get a lot of artists in a room, there's going to be conflict. Someone has an idea that someone else doesn't like, or someone wants this idea more. So we learn about voting and how important it is to respectfully give your opinion and then, go with the majority and have your voice be heard, and how important it is to vote. So we talk about all these things in all of my classrooms. That's a
good practical takeaway. Now, Ramona, what's next for you? What are you looking out 3 years, 5 years out? What are some of your goals at those levels and your overall vision?
That's a great question. Hands-on, I have a hope that we will grow. Right now we have a lot of residencies. We have almost 20 residencies in Oakland County, Washtenaw, and Wayne. I'd like to grow our presence into Macomb County and even further. And I'd also like to grow the storytellers that I send out to either build stories in classrooms with students, like curriculum-based stories, or just, good folktales, possible folktales for the future. And I'd also like to grow the storytellers that go out and do our interactive folktales. So Hands-On really does three things. We have professional development, in-school story building workshops that can be curriculum-based. Okay. And also we send out people to do interactive folktales, and that, like Teatro Chico, that's one. So I want to grow the people that I'm sending out, and I want to grow the tales we tell. I guess I just want to grow. That's my the next 3 years, growth.
Yeah. It's another kind of good quote, maybe a little phony. I mean, not phony, but maybe a little kind of, little, what's the name they call it?
Cliche?
Woo-woo.
Oh, woo-woo?
Don't go through life, grow through life.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was too woo-woo, like really.
No, that's great. I'm going to use that 7 times today.
I tweeted that like a couple months ago or something. So it's a little long line list of stuff. But it made me thought about that. Now, looking back, Ramona, would you change a thing?
What I change? I think I went through a really long starving artist phase when I was really fighting, because I really wanted to just act. I went to school and I got all this education to be a performer. And then when opportunities in storytelling were knocking on my door, I spent like 3 years saying no. I really did. And my now husband is the one who told me, Ramona, people keep asking you to tell a story and they keep offering you money. If you would just do that, maybe it could grow. And I did, and it took off after I started to say yes to that. But I guess if I could do anything different, I would say yes sooner, because I had to learn the lesson that that life will leave unlocked doors for you, but you have to go through. You can't just keep waiting for your window to open.
Right. This is what I'm supposed to do. You obviously saw another path that, once again, this can do wonders toward, even the acting work you do now and voiceover work.
It has, and that's just
and
it.
Now set yourself apart to, get those gigs even.
Exactly, and that's what happened. When I started to say yes, everything happened. Now I'm turning down roles.
Wow.
Like I have a show that I'm working on right now at Kickshaw Theater that opens in spring. But like, it's everything that I wanted began to happen when I began to say yes to myself, to say yes to the opportunities that were presented. So, yeah.
All right. Now, where can our listeners find out more about you along with any other info? I would say event dates, but this is going to be airing a few months. A few months from now. So just kind of give us more info, just maybe on some stuff coming up towards the spring, summer 2017.
Okay. For Hands-On, we have our next show that's the end of this month. Keep looking at our website for more upcoming shows. Right now, we're doing a lot of residencies. We're very residency focused, and this summer is usually when we do professional development.
Okay. Summer 2017.
Summer 2017.
Okay.
For myself as a performer, again with Kickshaw Theater in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area in spring, I will be touring. Where can you find information on that one?
You can give us some websites.
Actually, Kickshaw. If you check out the Kickshaw Theater website, they'll have our performance information, and it's a show called "Here's to Me, Here's to You," and it's actually about the art of toasting.
Okay, like toasting a glass.
Yeah, toasting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And also handsonfolktales.com.
Yes,
as well.
handsonfolktales.com. I got to tell you, our Facebook and Twitter are more active than our actual page because I am the person doing it. So,
gotcha. Wearing those hats. I feel you.
I had a social media manager, and I hired her because she had this great interactive comic, and I thought that she was just very much in line with what we were doing, and her interactive comic took off.
Oh.
So, it's a really great comic. So now I don't have a social media manager.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, well I may be able to,
we'll
do you
talk.
know Kayla Willis?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna have to connect you with her. Someone I met at a recent workshop. But yeah, they're out there, and I know that's something as entrepreneurs we want to eventually delegate these things so we can get caught wearing too many hats and focusing our work on things that other people that are better than us can do, and that's what you want to do. You want to find a group, a tribe, so I could definitely feel you on that. There's a lot of things I need to delegate, which I'm going to work on in 2017. Now, last question, Ramona, before we wrap it up.
Oh, last question. I've had so much fun.
I know, me too, And to wrap up, tell me a little bit about what legacy means to you and how you want your legacy to be remembered.
I mean, legacy is all about what we want to send into the future, right? To me, when I think of legacy, I think of youth and the kind of path that we want to blaze for them so they have an easier time, being the future we hope. So that's what I think of legacy. How am I blazing this path now so that the person who comes after me will have an easier time than I did? So that's legacy. And what I hope with Hands-On and my work as a community storyteller is that I blaze a path where a lot of youth now learn to tell their story, learn to share their story, and most importantly, learn to teach others to communicate their story. Earlier on a break, I shared with you that Andrew Jackson, teaching a history residency now, and my history book that I'm supposed to be teaching out of says that Andrew Jackson's a hero. And what I did was I presented my kids with what Andrew Jackson has done. I invite you in the world to Google it.
Tell it.
And I reminded them, who tells the story decides who the hero is. Don't let anyone tell your story for you. You tell it. That's what I hope my legacy is, that I leave a trail of students that become teachers.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up. Ramona, I really want to thank you for coming in as another guest on the Career Pulse podcast. You really, once again, inspired me with your wisdom, your knowledge, and your storytelling mission. And Career Pulse podcast listeners, definitely, once again, feel free to, keep following Career Pulse podcast on social media, as well as follow Ramona Lucius at Hands-On Folktales. And this has really been a treat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You added a new level of, I'd say, creativity, to the show. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All righty.
All right.
Yep, so there it is. Ramona Lucius Burns of Hands-On Folktales. A great interview. Really enjoyed her, by the way. Just some quick takeaway points, like she was mentioning on storytelling. Whether you're getting a grant or making a pitch, people want to know what story you're telling. You really want to be able to walk into a room full of enemies and leave out with a room full of allies. That was a really good point. And what I really respected about Ramona is just really her tenacity and her drive, and just how she really is able to walk into a room and just literally have the room on their feet, as far as like her inflection, her commanding authority. So she just talks about, I remember her talking about, she never just wants to hear a good job. And when she was talking about finding your goal and your path, you're supposed to be in a place where you're uncertain, and it's okay when you're kind of trying to figure things out. And on Hard Life Lessons, she also mentioned, sometimes you can do your best and it doesn't matter. Business is not your friend. Success is a ladder you never stop climbing. Quote from Carol Burnett. And finally, her last quote, which is really good tidbit: life will leave unlocked doors for you, but you have to go through them. You just can't keep waiting for your window to open. So once again, a great interview with Ramona. Spring 2017, she's continuing to do the programs in and out of state. Things are going very well. Maybe we'll have her back on the podcast again. And other than that, guys, thanks for tuning in to the Career Pulse podcast. And look forward to talking to you guys next time. And have a good day. Take care.